Welcome and thank you for joining us. Yesterday we had three great sessions on wellness, yoga, and anxiety, and the feather carriers storytelling. Just a note that all the sessions are being recorded and will be shared to our YouTube channel for others to view at their leisure. All proceeds from this week will be supporting the Child, Youth, and Family Waiting Room at the Community Health Hub. The specialty waiting room will provide a space that is welcoming, comforting, and safe physically, mentally, and emotionally. The room is designed to reduce anxiety during visits, offer space to play, and have fun while waiting for an appointment. Our goal is $25,000. A special thank you to all our sponsors, which were listed at the beginning of the session, and today's session sponsor, Canadian Tire Midland. Remember to treat yourself and your family to lunch or dinner today at the world famous Stock Lunch, and a portion of sales will be donated back to Waypoint in support of the Child, Youth, and Family Waiting Room. This morning, we are excited to start the day with Nicole Mace, who is going to share with us a session on mindfulness. A little bit about Nicole. Nicole works for Waypoint Center for Mental Health Care as organizational development consultant. Her specialty is in the area of leadership development and workplace health. Nicole is an organizational leads facilitator, complemented with a background as a facilitator for the Mindfulness Without Borders Mindfulness Ambassador program. Nicole uses her combination of skills to support the community development, individual growth, and self-awareness. Nicole holds a Master's of Arts in Leadership, honors Bachelor of Kinesiology, and a Bachelor's of Arts Psychology. She has been an active coach for 20 years, working with groups and individuals. Nicole specializes in program development, implementation, and strategy alignment, and has a passion for supporting wellness and focused resilient strategies. So I'll turn it over to you, Nicole, to start the session.
Thanks, Shelley. Hi, everyone. As Shelley said, I'm Nicole Mace, and I'm feeling extremely excited to be here today to support this really important week. Mental health and motion is just such an exciting week, and doing it in this virtual platform, I'm really curious to see how it's going to unfold and what we can learn and bring forward. So thank you for taking the time today to come and jump into this mindfulness session. And I hope whether you're someone completely new to mindfulness or you're someone who has practiced for years, that you come with an open mind to see what you can learn in the next little while. So a little bit about the agenda. What you can expect in the next half an hour is for us to do a little bit of a check-in, for us to talk about what is mindfulness, when will you use mindfulness, why would you use mindfulness, and we're going to spend a bulk of the time doing a practice. So I want you to just kind of immerse yourself into a practice where you can consider all the different elements to this practice that we're going to have. And so you give yourself the gift of self-care while you're here carving out this time to participate in this really important event. And then we're going to finish off with me sharing a few resources. So when you walk away with this, if you want some tips and tools of where to go, you'll know where to go. So without further ado, we're just going to go into a check-in. What you have in front of you is an emotions thermometer, a really simple tool that we can use to pinpoint how we're doing in this moment. It's important to check in, and often I know for myself, I need that reminder to check in with myself. So I'm hoping that you take a look at this graphic, and while you're taking a look at it, consider, how am I feeling right now while I'm here in this presentation? What number might represent how I'm feeling, and what word might describe my emotion? So for example, being the person in front of you right now, I feel like I'm a 5. I'm noticing that I'm feeling that I'm excited to be here. This is a great opportunity. So I'm just wondering if you might take a moment and reflect on what number represents you, and what's one word that would represent how you're feeling. Feel free, if you want to share it in the chat box, you're more than welcome. And if you want to keep this to yourself as a personal reflection, you certainly can do so. Why we take a moment to do a reflection like this is for two really important reasons. One is to take a moment and honor how we're doing in this moment and know how we're showing up right now for this activity. That's our emotional awareness And it also engages our social awareness, so how we're showing up. So for example, if I was a 1 right now and I was feeling really sad and I'm presenting, it would allow me to be aware of how I might want to present differently. I see someone's added into communication that I was feeling a 3, but I moved to a 5 when I saw my friend Nicole. Thank you. Yeah, we change by the minute, and how we are on the scale can change, but it's important to just take a moment and check in with yourself and check in with, what do I need? So thanks for doing that check-in with me. And I hope you, if anything, can just think about this 5-point scale, or what emotion you might be experiencing at any part of your day. I see Holly's added, and I'm a 4. I'm generally feeling really good, but there's always a bit of a weight from the pandemic. Some days it's heavier than others. What's really important here with the check-in is that, whatever number you are, whether you're a 1, a 5, there's no right or wrong. There's no good and bad. It's simply information for you to be aware of, so it can help you as you engage in your day. And thanks, Darlene, for sharing your 4. I see another 4. And it's also important when we're a 4 that we recognize that someone else in the room could be a 1. And how will we engage to make sure it's a safe place for everyone? So thank you for your shares, and thank you for taking that time to reflect. So now, what is mindfulness? And when you hear what mindfulness, we all have our experiences and associations of what it might be to us. But I like to ground us in a common definition of what mindfulness is. And this definition is from Jon Kabat-Zinn. And Jon Kabat-Zinn is the grandfather of mindfulness. So he's someone that I like to represent when I'm talking about mindfulness. So the quote reads, "Mindfulness is the awareness that emerges through paying attention on purpose in the present and non-judgmentally to the unfolding of experience." Mindfulness is the awareness that emerges through paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally to the unfolding of the experience. So while I read the definition, and you can see it in front of you, just take a moment and reflect on what that means to you. And I'm going to draw your attention to paying attention. So this is where we're at. Challenging people, whether you're someone who practices avidly or you're someone who's never practiced before. Paying attention is arriving with a beginner's mindset. And often human habit is to arrive with an expert mindset. And it's really hard to put on that beginner's mindset and be curious. And being in the present moment is being in the now. It's the stories of the past or the stories of the future and what's to come, but it's being present right here with this group of lovely individuals who's carved out this time for themselves. And again, the non-judgmental is, if we reflect on that check-in we just did, not judging how we're doing in the moment and just using it as information that can guide us in our day and our choices. So why mindfulness? So we said, what is it? Well, why would we do it? And what's really cool over the pandemic is I've had the opportunity to take a mindfulness practice that I've been trained in that's generally 12 hours long and retool it into 2 hours. And why mindfulness? It came out of that study loudly clear. It's because something very simple in a small dose can increase and develop our resilience. That's our ability to bounce back. So when there's a challenge like a pandemic, or a challenge like something happens in our day that's really rough and difficult, mindfulness can help us come back to a place of mental well-being. Mindfulness can help us develop develop empathy is the second arrow up. So empathy for self and empathy for others. So just that simple check-in allows us to be aware of what's going on for ourselves. And maybe we might notice that we need to self-soothe, have compassion for ourselves, or be empathetic to how we're feeling in this moment. Mindfulness helps us be aware of that. And it also helps us be aware of how others are feeling, so we can listen closely and try to understand where they're coming from to maybe help them out along the path or navigate a conflict. And when we practice mindfulness and we're increasing our resilience and developing it and developing our empathy, This can help to reduce burnout, specifically emotional exhaustion. It can help us fill our cup so we feel prepared. Mindfulness is proven to strengthen our immune systems. Our overall well-being improves. It's used to decrease stress, to combat anxiety, and to make us feel like we're able to connect better with others, improve sleep, helps with relationships, and it helps with our physical and mental well-being. So there's a lot of gifts to mindfulness, and what I'm sharing with you is not all inclusive. It's just some of the highlights that I'd like to share. But mindfulness isn't the only tool, but it's one tool that has a lot of great benefits. Oh, sorry about that. So when would you use it? And you can see the comic strip I have up there with Clark Kent changing in the booth. And I have that up because I personally would share my passion for using it for transitions. So Clark Kent is changing, and mindfulness can help us pause to change. And what I mean by that is change from being an employee working to a parent. Hitting that pause and taking a 30-second practice can help us transition from one meeting to a next. It can help us ground ourselves so we're ready to go and not bring forward what we just experienced, but instead be present in the moment. So transitions are pretty powerful. And if you think about transitioning like we do right now from like one activity to another, for example, from work to home life, it can be really tricky, and intentionally using mindfulness can help us. It can help us prepare for home. So I give the example of picturing getting in your car after a day of work and driving home, and somewhere along the path, in a safe place, doing a quick practice to leave work at work and engage into the next phase of your day. That could also look like me. Right now, I'm sitting in my home, and my transition would be 5 steps into my kitchen. So using mindfulness can be a really powerful way to allow us to set up boundaries and transition from place to place. Also, it can help us be better listeners and communicate better. So by mindfully listening to someone, especially when the conversation might be difficult, we can really try to focus on, what are they trying to tell me? What do I need to understand from this? What am I seeing here? Mindfulness can help us sleep, like I already mentioned. It could be a longer practice that helps us fall asleep, or it could be a practice that we use in the night if we wake up and we're having a hard time falling asleep. Mindfulness can help us with our self-care strategy by taking time to carve out a regular routine practice and build healthy habits. So when we do notice that we're feeling away, like anxious or angry or frustrated or stressed, and we want to calm, we can engage in that practice. That when we build that skill, it becomes, more intuitive to us to use. It can help us recharge our bodies. And finally, it can help us when we're navigating difficult emotions. So when we're feeling stressed or anxious, we could use it to help calm, so then we can look at the situation differently and maybe with curiosity and try to sort through, what do I need to move forward here? Who might I want to engage to help me out? So mindfulness has a lot of different uses. And again, this isn't exhaustive. These are just a few that I want to highlight and share. But most importantly, mindfulness is a practice. And by practice, it means something that you want to engage in somewhat regularly. Like any kind of physical activity where there's a regular routine, mindfulness is a workout for the brain. So it's really important to practice coming back to paying attention, just like we're doing right now. Well, you see this green box highlighted around my panel, and you hear me talking, your screen's pulling you to pay attention to me. So right now we're doing a workout just with this visual cue. So what are the types of mindfulness? And there are a lot. And the ones I have up here are ones that I'm sharing with you because they're the ones that I'm familiar with by being a mindfulness ambassador, trained by Mindfulness Without Borders. So these are ones that are my go-tos because they're the skills I have, but they're not exhaustive. There's quite a few different ones. But I will go down the list and share with you a few, and some of them you might be familiar with and others you might be curious about. So mindful listening, that's, paying attention and listening in the moment and focusing your attention on, what are all the sounds around me, near and far? What might stand out to me? How might I feel about what stands out to me? Being curious. Loving kindness. Loving kindness is a practice that helps to build empathy. And, if somebody's struggling in the moment, loving kindness can help to, elicit feelings of happiness and peace and feelings that we want to share with others. The basic breath, that's kind of a more common mindfulness tool where you see people using breath work, which seems really simple, but it's not. It can be hard at any point in time for any practitioner to focus on the simple breath. Anchor breath, where we're going in a little bit deeper with breath work. Mindful movement. So this is a really great mindfulness practice to use, especially for someone who doesn't feel like they're able to sit calmly. They need to pay attention by movement, using that sensory piece. Mindful eating, the practice of paying attention to what's being put into our bodies as it becomes part of our bodies, and considering where did it come from. And gratitude, the practice of intentionally being thankful. So those are a few of the practices. And like I promised at the beginning, we're going to do a longer practice today. And it's going to layer in a few of these different mindfulness practices that I'm sharing with you, that I have experience in training in. So without further ado, let's get into a practice. So what I'm going to ask you to do is make yourself comfortable. So if you have a video on and you're comfortable turning the video off, please do so. If you're sitting and you want to lay down, please do so. I'm going to speak about the practice from a seated position, but it's completely okay to take what you need by positioning yourself however you're comfortable. So what I'd like you to do is, if you are seated, I'd like you to take a moment and make sure that your feet are grounded on the floor. And if you're lying down, take a moment and feel your heels touching the floor. What we want to do is just take a moment to ground ourselves. And we can do that by just taking our attention from our mind to the farthest part of our body, our feet. So just take a moment and notice your feet touching the surface, whether it's your heels, what that pressure feels like, your toes. And what I'm going to ask you to do once you've done that is bring your right hand in front of you and your left hand in front of you, put them together and start to move them. There's no right or wrong way. There's no good or bad. Moving your hands and paying attention to the sensations. Apply different pressure. Try to feel the skin touching and moving. Temperature, the sound, the visual presence. You take a breath in and come to a pause. Take your right hand and put it down on your leg or your side. Left hand is going to be in front of you. It can be comfortable and down, so you're gazing down towards it. I'm going to keep mine up high, so if you want to see, you can. And I'd like you to take a breath in. And as you release that breath, watch your thumb slowly come into the palm. Take a breath in and watch your breath. Exhale and draw your index finger in. Breath in. Keep rolling a finger in with each breath. Breath in. Release. One more time. Breath in. And release. Take your hand, put it on your thigh. Here I'm going to invite you to close your eyes if you'd like to. And if you don't want to close your eyes, that's completely okay. Just find a speck in front of you on the floor, or maybe if there's a table, because you want to relax your eyes and gaze downwards. And I want you to grow your spine, tall and noble. Feel it growing tall like a trunk of a tree. Slide your shoulders back and down. Adjust yourself if you need to. And draw your attention to the flow of your breath. You don't need to breathe in any special way. Your body knows just how to breathe. Simply notice each breath as it richly enters the body and as it leaves. Noticing the inhale and the out breath. And if your mind wanders, thinking about to-do lists, noticing sensations in your body, just take note of where your mind's going and what it's paying attention to. And gently and kindly draw your attention back to your breath. Noticing that rich breath in, bringing in the new, and that exhale, letting go. And with each breath out, I want you to allow your body to just melt, relax. And as you feel that relaxation, know that there's no sensation that's right or wrong. Just simply be aware of how your body feels. And as you take a breath in, on your next breath out, I want you to draw your attention to focus on the top of your head. Just noticing any sensations, noticing as they arise, and remaining open. Curiously scanning the top of your head and noticing anything that you can. Can you feel the hairs? Do you notice the temperature? Do you feel a hat or headband? Is there a surface it's resting on? And again, if you get distracted by thoughts or emotions or sensations, with kindness, guide your attention back to the top of your head. And guide your attention to your face, feeling the muscles in your face release, scanning it from top to bottom, forehead to chin, ear to ear, noticing any tightness and letting it go, allowing the face to simply soften. And at the end of the next out breath, shift your attention to the length of your arms, scanning the top of your shoulders all the way down to your wrists, feeling the muscles in your arms simply melt. And bringing your attention to your hands, the palms of your hands, the back of your hands, each individual finger and nail. Noticing the sensations between the surface in your hand. And again, giving your hands and your arms permission to just relax. Take this moment. Guiding your attention to the area of your torso, chest down to the hips. Noticing the rise of the chest with the in-breath and the fall of the chest with the out-breath. Feeling the belly expand with the rich air and compress when you let it go. And bringing your awareness to the length of your legs from the hips all the way down to your ankles. Whether you're sitting or lying, scanning those legs front to back, finding an opportunity to just give them a chance to relax, a moment to feel release. Noticing your feet, the soles of the feet, the tops of the feet, each individual toe, and allowing your feet to simply rest. I want you to guide your attention back to your breath, all the way back up to your nose, feeling you breathe in the new, breathe out the old. Taking a nice rich breath. I want you to bring your attention to something or someone that you're very thankful for. Someone who you feel very deep gratitude. It could be a furry friend, could be a friend, family member. Someone when you think about, a smile comes to your face. Someone you hold dear to you. And I want you to take a moment and think about what makes you so grateful for them? What part of them are you thankful for? Maybe they're a good listener, a warm smile. I want you to hold this person carefully in your thoughts and send them wishes for happiness, good health, and peace. I wish you happiness, good health, and peace. If you get distracted, just notice what's distracting you and let it go by sending these loving wishes to this person that's very important to you. I wish you happiness, good health, and peace. Now bring your attention back to the flow of your breath, richly breathing in the new, letting go of the old. Notice how you feel right now. When you're ready, I'm going to ask you to start to wiggle your fingers, move your toes, start to flutter your eyes open. And while you flutter your eyes open, take a moment and look around the room that you're in, curiously getting used to this environment. You can move around, stretch if you need to. If you need to take a yawn, take a yawn. And just take a moment and reflect on that practice. What was that like for me? So as I take you through that practice, we started off with a simple mindful movement. And when you reflect, were you able to pay attention? Or did you find your mind wandering while you were doing this activity? What was that like for you? And then from mindful movement, we went into a 5-finger breath. So a simple breath, a visual breath where we can see our hands fold as we do our breath work. Then we went into a body scan, seated or lying down, where we were honoring our body and trying to just rest our body, rejuvenate, take care of our well-being. And finally, we went into a brief loving kindness and gratitude activity. So we layered in a lot. I'd like you to just reflect on what that was like for you. And if there was part of it that, really resonated with you, a part of it that you feel you could engage in again to make it a practice. What I'm going to ask you to do, if you feel comfortable, is without hitting enter, go to the chat and type in what's one thing you learned from that practice. And I'll tell you when to hit enter. So I'm just going to give people a moment to type in one thing you learned from that practice, knowing there's no right or wrong, no good or bad, just simply what you learned. And if you feel comfortable, type in one thing you learned, and I'll let you know when I'll say enter, when you're going to put it in the chat box. So I'm going to give you about 20 seconds more. If you're willing to participate, please hit enter now. And I encourage you to look at the chat box and see what people have learned. Gratitude, kindness, good to focus on one person who you are thankful for, the ability to take a pause and focus on breathing at any time. I have a hard time keeping my mind from wandering, but even doing it imperfectly had a positive result. Yeah, even practicing can have a positive result. So thank you for your shares there. Everyone in this room can teach someone about mindfulness. We all have that inner wisdom. So thank you for taking that time and sharing. And resources. So there are a lot of resources out there, and you need to find, if this is something that you want to embark on a journey and a practice, or you want to enrich it, you need to find out what works for you. What I have up here is just some little tips of where to go to start to look at that. So Calm is an app. I'm not saying that the Calm app is something that I am encouraging people to purchase. I'm more highlighting that there's different apps out there that can take you through the practice and cue you to remind you to do a practice. And so there's a lot of resources and tools that are readily available in the app form, if that's something that is appealing to you. YouTube, just going on YouTube and picking different guided meditations and listening to the different individuals. You can go on YouTube and search a 5-minute to an hour, asleep versus one that energizes for anxiety. So again, lots of free resources are readily available. Depending on what your needs are, you might want to engage in a professional, someone who has a clinical background in mindfulness. So we did a skills course today, but there are different types of mindfulness. So it's important to take a look at what are my needs and who might support me along my path. And there are a lot of wonderful professionals in the Simcoe area. And guided meditations that are on websites. So I shared with you the training I have is with Mindfulness Without Borders, and their website's there, and I share it with you because it's free. So you can go and get audio recordings of the practices that I shared with you earlier on. So mindful listening, loving kindness, and they're readily available. So I encourage you, if this was something that you just used today to fill your cup, to take a moment and pat yourself on the back for caring for self. And if you're curious about where to go from here, for you to access a resource, and certainly feel free to reach out if you have any questions. So with that said, I'm going to end with a quote. And the closing quote is, of course, from Jon Kabat-Zinn. There's a lot of different ways to talk about mindfulness, but what it really means is awareness. So I think that's a pretty powerful quote because the practice is quite simple, but it's tricky at the same time. So thank you very much for your time. And I guess I will turn it over to Shelley if there's any questions, or if anyone else wanted to stay on and ask any questions, I'm certainly happy to do so. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Nicole, thank you so much for doing this today, and what a great morning, great way to start the day. For anybody who is looking to chime in at noon, we do have Dr. Rob Meter, who's going to be talking to us a little bit more about mental health and youth and the pandemic, and it is a great session, definitely worth checking out. If you have a chance to pop over to Doc Lunch today, a portion of proceeds will be going to the Child and Youth Family Waiting Room, so please join us for that. And tonight, we are very excited to have the Our Health series running. We have Dr. Rob Meter. Nicole will be there as one of the panelists, and Dr. Anita Federici. So please check out tonight's Our Health. It's on Rogers. But if you don't have Rogers, you can also check out Facebook, go online, and there is a link there that you can watch from your computer. You do not need to have a tie-in with Rogers. You don't have to have cable to watch it. So please join us. It's a great session. It's interactive. You can ask questions, and it's moderated by Dr. Keith Rose. It's great. Please be there. And we hope to see you this afternoon at noon. All right. Thank you so much. And Nicole, thank you so much for doing this.
My pleasure. Thanks a
Thanks,
lot.
Nicole. Sorry,
Bye.
I was on mute and I was talking away to myself. So thanks, Holly, for stepping in.
No problem. And thanks everyone for coming today.
Thanks.
See you soon.